At this time, I'd like to call to order the November 2nd, 2020 meeting of the Charleston County Board of Zoning and Appeals, better known as the BZA. Ms. Working, can you please review the virtual meeting protocol?
Yes, so staff will control the slides displayed throughout the meeting. Applicants and members of the public must be sworn in before speaking for the first time. They should state their full name and current address for the record. Only attendees who have registered to speak before the deadline, which was 12 today, may speak during the meeting. Applicants and/or their representatives for the public hearing cases are registered to speak. Video and microphone have been disabled for all attendees. Attendees will only be given the capability to speak when they are called on by the BZA secretary or chair. If you submitted a request to speak on a case before the deadline, staff will call your name when it is your turn to speak and will enable your microphone. Your microphone will be disabled after you are done speaking. And chat has been disabled for everyone. Board members who need to recuse themselves will not participate in discussion or deliberation and will not vote. And this meeting is being recorded.
Thank you. Ms. Working, can you please call the roll of the BZA members and introduce and swear the Charleston County Board and Planning meeting staff that are present today?
Yes. Mr. Ray?
Present.
Ms. Lechner? I'm gonna have to get her on later. Ms. Allison?
Here.
Mr. Boykin?
Present.
Mr. Goldstein?
Here.
Mr. McConnell?
Present.
Mr. Nelson?
Here.
And Mr. Woodall?
Here.
Okay, and we'll try to get Lori on. She should be on. And then the attorney for the BZA, Mr. Calvin Hugie.
Here.
Okay. And Mr. Freeman is absent today. The Charleston County Zoning and Planning staff present for this meeting are Sally Brooks, Joshua Downey, Joyce McGrew, Jennifer Stiles, and I'm Jenny Working, the secretary for the BZA. At this time, I'm going to swear in the staff that will present testimony or evidence. Staff, please raise your right hand. I will say the oath and you will say I do. I swear to tell the truth and nothing but the truth. I do.
I do.
Thank you.
Very good. Next slide, please. Because the hearing tonight is a public fact-finding meeting, we are in compliance with the Freedom of Act and South Carolina Code 6-29-70. 15 days prior to this hearing, an announcement was made and was printed in the Postal Courier. A sign was posted on or near the designated property. A notice was mailed to the applicant or the applicant's representative, the property's owners within 300 feet of the property, and to the parties of interest, persons, organizations, and news media that have requested declarations of our meeting has also been informed. Next slide, please. Board members, the meeting notes for October 5th, 2020, the public hearing were mailed to you. Are there any changes? If not, may I have a motion and a second?
So moved.
All right, we got a motion from Mr. Nelson. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Mr. Borkin gives a second. All right, so let's bring it to a vote. All those in favor? Ms. Working, could you please call the roll?
Sure. Mr. Ray?
Aye.
Okay. Ms. Lechner?
Aye.
Okay, good. You're on. Great. Ms. Allison?
Aye.
Mr. Boykin?
Aye.
Mr. Goldstein?
Aye.
Mr. McConnell?
Aye.
Mr. Nelson?
Aye.
And Mr. Woodall?
Abstain. I wasn't on the meeting.
Okay.
Very good. Our case rulings from this and any BZA meetings are available to the public and its inspections during normal business hours at the Charleston County Zoning and Planning Department. Next slide, please. The Board of Zoning Appeals is a quasi-judicial body that has final decision-making authority on appeals on zoning-related administrative decisions. The BZA has the authority to hear, decide appeals only on zoning-related matters where they allege an error in an order requiring the decision or determination made by the administrative official in the administration or enforcement of any zoning-related regulations. A 2/3 vote of a quorum present is required to overturn the decision of the planning director in an appeal. A special exception is an exception issued by the BZA authorizing a particular use in a specific location within a zoning district upon demonstrating that such use complies with the conditions and standards specified by the zoning and land regulation, also known as ZELDAR. The BZA must find that the special exception requests meet all 6 of the approval criteria in the ordinance in order to grant the special exception. A simple majority is required to grant a special exception. A variance is a relaxation of the BZA of the regulations of the ordinance where such action will not be contrary to the public interest and where, owing to conditions particular to the property, and shall result in actions or the situations of the applicant. A literal enforcement of this code would result in an unnecessary and undue hardship. And such a variance is consistent with section 6-29-800 of Code of Law for the state of South Carolina, Title 6, Chapter 29. The BZA must find that the variance request meets all 7 of the approval criteria in the ordinance in order to grant the variance. A 2/3 vote of the quorum present is required to grant the variance. Next slide, please. Our purpose tonight is for informed parties to be heard in order to assist the board in gathering pertinent evidence for each case. If the member of the BZA feels a need for further information to clarify a case, the board has the authority to subpoena witnesses. It must be understood that the rules of your neighborhood or your subdivision are binding and that we can take no action to negate their jurisdiction over your property. In addition to your testimony, our board has been presented written information submitted by staff, by the applicant or the agent for each case. This information is now considered to be evidence and is entered into the permanent record for this body. It is assumed that it is complete, true, and accurate. In addition, we will have been presented data assembled by staff for the purpose of clarifying the location and the application effect on the surrounding properties. This board is empowered to approve with conditions, or to deny a special exception or variance request. We are also authorized to defer a case should there be a need to obtain additional information. The BZA final decision will be mailed within 10 working days of this public hearing. It will be mailed via certified mail to the applicants and via US mail to the neighbors and community of interest. If an applicant request is approved, the applicant should contact the Charleston County Zoning and Planning Department staff to discuss the next step in the process. Variances and special exceptions granted this evening are validated for 12 months after the meeting. and 1 year extension may be granted only if construction or development has commenced or being diligently pursued. However, if an applicant's request is disapproved, and if the applicant wishes to appeal the decision of this board concerning the case, an appeal must be made and addressed to the circuit court. South Carolina Code 6-29-80 states that an appeal must be filed by the applicant within 30 days after the decision of this board has been mailed to them. Failure to file an appeal within a timely manner deprives this court of the jurisdiction to hear this matter. Because this is a quasi-judicial body, everything said in this meeting must be complete, true, and accurate. All the information provided to the BZA is considered evidence. And the board may certify contempt of court if false statements are made either in writing or orally. Each person who wishes to address the board tonight will be sworn in by the BZA secretary before they provide testimony. Next slide, please. I will now call each case by case number. Staff will present facts that are pertinent to the case, limited to 5 minutes. I will then call the applicant. The applicant will state his name, his or her name, and the current address for the record before presenting testimony pertinent to the case, limited to 5 minutes. I would then ask for those speaking in favor or support of the case. They will be followed by the same procedure for identifying themselves and are limited to 2 minutes each. The applicant will then have a chance to reply to any opposition, limited to 2 minutes. And if the BZA will make a motion to close the case to the public. Finally, the BZA will make a motion concerning the application, stating the specific facts and the conclusion of law. Tonight, we will hear one old case, old business to the public, and 6 new public cases. Next slide, please. Ms. Working, would you please introduce the first case? We would like to move the old case to the last portion of the meeting tonight.
I think we need a motion to do that. A motion.
Second?
A motion if you'd like to change the order.
Yes. So at this time, I'd like to have a motion to move the old business to the end of the docket tonight. Mr. Goldstein.
I make a motion that we move the old business to the end of the agenda.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Woodall made a second. Just by show of hands. Well, no, not show of hands. Ms. Working, could you please call the roll for a vote?
Okay. Mr. Ray,
Aye.
Lechner.
Aye.
Okay. Allison,
Aye.
Waken,
Aye.
Goldstein,
Aye.
McConnell,
Aye.
Nelson,
Aye.
and Woodall.
Aye.
Okay.
So it passes. Very good. So if we can go to the very first case tonight.
Okay. This is the next slide, please, Joyce. This is case BZA 0420-00394. The applicant is Megan E. Moody and Brian Graham, and they're with Weston and Sampson. And the property owner of the easements is the Charleston Water System, the CWS, and that's James R. Wilson as the contact. The CWS utility easements are located on 5823, 5827, 5731, 5719, and 5855 New Road, and that's in the St. Paul's area. The properties are zoned agricultural residential AGR. And the request is for a special exception request for utility service major to install a 16-inch water transmission main extension within the CWS utility easements abutting New Road right-of-way. And again, in the Egg district. And then those are just the sections in chapter 6 that require in the definition. Next, please. Next slide, please. Okay. These are just the Zeldar sections. And then this is the zoning map. Go back to the same map. So this is the 5 parcels that are subject to this request and have the easements on them. This is just a zoomed in aerial. In this zoomed out aerial to the south, there's 2 larger properties. Those are subject in our next case. Those are the form-based code properties for the 3 grand trees. So I'm kind of just showing you an overall, I don't know if you can see, but like the 5 properties at the top and then the 2 below that. Okay, next. And these are just some pictures of the posting. And then just some photos of New Road where the easement's going in. So as far as the criteria for this case, staff stated that it meets all 6 of the criteria, and we had 1 condition. And I think that's, yeah. Prior to zoning permit approval, the applicant shall complete the site plan review process. So staff did find that it met all the criteria. Your packet did have a lot of site plans. We can kind of quickly run through those, or if you want to stop at one or go back to one later, we could do that. The ones that are highlighted in green are for the next case, but they're part of this project too. Do you guys have any questions for me?
Any questions for staff, guys? All right, Ms. Birkin, is the applicant
Yes.
available?
I thought I saw her on here. I did not see her on here yet. Her name is Megan Moody. Let's see. I don't know who these call-in numbers are. Let me see who this is. Hello, is this the person with the phone number, the 437 number? I don't think that's her. Yeah, I don't see her on here yet, so I'm not sure. Do you guys want to go to the next case or?
Can I make a suggestion?
Sure.
Could you see if there's anybody to speak in opposition?
There is not anybody to speak in opposition. No one signed up to speak in opposition for these 2 cases, but she was supposed to be on here. She was registered. I just don't see her on here yet.
Well, speaking only for myself and not for anyone else, I think that based on the materials that you have provided us, I have sufficient information to form an opinion, but the others may not feel that way.
I will
And
concur.
I know she definitely registered, so it just might be that she's not on yet, but yeah.
What are the thoughts of the board members? Do you feel that you have enough information in the packets to make a motion? Just wave your hand or something. Yes, no.
I do.
I do.
All right, Ms. Walken, Ms. Lawrence, Ms. Lechner. Okay. And Ms. Workin, you said we have no one to speak in opposition. Ms. Workin, you said we had no one to speak in opposition.
That's correct.
Okay. All right. Well, if we have someone that, well, let's close this case then. We'll close this case to the public. And does anybody else have a question of staff before we go any further? All right, then at this time, the chair will hear any motions. Ms. Leckner, I see your hand.
Good evening, everyone. In regard to case BZA 0420000394, I make a motion that we vote to approve based on the following information. It does meet all 6 levels of criteria. Criteria 1, it is consistent with the recommendations contained in the Charleston County Comprehensive Plan. Criteria 2, it's compatible with existing uses in the vicinity and will not adversely affect the general welfare or character of the immediate community. Criteria 3, adequate provision is made for such items as setbacks and buffering to protect adjacent properties from the possible adverse influence of the proposed use. Criteria 4, it will be developed in a way that will preserve and incorporate the important natural features. Criteria 5, complies with all applicable rules, regulations, laws, and standards of this ordinance. And criteria 6, vehicular traffic and pedestrian movement on adjacent roads will not be hindered. I also would like that we include the 1 condition recommended by staff.
Very good. You heard the motion. Do we have a second? Mr. Dawson?
Second.
All right, very good. So we have a motion that's been properly stated and moved. Ms. Working, could you call the roll for the vote?
Sure. Mr. Ray,
Aye.
Ms. Leckner,
Aye.
Ms. Allison,
Aye.
Mr. Boykin,
Aye.
Mr. Goldstein,
Aye.
Mr. McConnell,
Aye.
Mr. Nelson,
Aye.
and Mr. Woodall.
Aye.
So that's unanimous for approval with the 1 condition.
Very good. So our next case tonight will be case BZA -04-20-00395. And this will be presented by Ms. Working.
Yeah, so this case is related to the last one we just heard, except for the 2 properties are located in the form-based zoning district. They're on parcel 174-0000053 and 058. The addresses for those easements locations are 5613 and 5695 New Road in St. Paul's. Again, the applicant is Weston and Sampson, so hopefully by the time I get finished with this, they might be on. But the request is for the removal of 3 trees that are located within the easements in order to install the water main. And the reason a special exception was not required in this case was because that was an allowed use in the form-based code. And then, yeah, these are just our grand tree section for the variances for Zeldar. And then the black color is our form-based code zoning. So it's going to be, the 3 trees are located along New Road. And I think we have pictures, or that's the aerial, the zoom out, or yeah. And then some pictures of the signs we posted. And then we have pictures of the trees. So the first tree is the 27-inch DBH grand water oak tree, and that's on parcel 53. Also on parcel 53, there's a 40-inch grand water oak tree. And then on parcel 58, there's a 31-inch DBH grand red oak tree. And again, some pictures of New Road here. This is the arborist rating, natural direction. So they rated these 3 trees C, all 3 of them. And as far as the criteria, we said that it may meet 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, and 7, and that it meets 5. And then we had 3 conditions. The first one's for mitigation. Yeah, the applicant shall mitigate the removal of the 27-inch, 40-inch, and 31-inch, so total 98 inches, by either submitting a mitigation plan for review and approval indicating the installation of canopy trees no smaller than 2.5 inches in caliper, equaling inch per inch replacement, by depositing funds into the Charleston County Tree Fund as described in section 946 of ZELDAR, or C, a combination of A and B, and that we would require the documentation of the mitigation submitted, reviewed, and approved for the tree prior to them removing it. Number 2 is prior to zoning permit approval, the applicant shall install tree barricades around the grand trees to be preserved. And 3, prior to zoning permit approval, the applicant shall complete site plan review. And I think the next slides are the tree location. So that's the 31-inch, the location of the red oak. And then the grand water oak 27 inches and the 40-inch. That's pretty much it for that one. Do you guys have questions about this one?
You have a question?
Okay.
Oh, is it my turn?
Yes, Mr. Goldstein.
Okay, thank you. Do you know if Megan Moody has joined us yet? Because I have a feeling she's somewhere losing her mind trying to get the computer to work. Because if she's not here, I have a question. If she is here, I'm going to save it for her.
Okay. Yeah, I'm looking. I don't see her on there. I don't
Okay,
see
well, then I'm going to ask the question of you.
Brian or James Wilson either. So.
Okay. You know, these applications strike me as being pretty perfunctory and routine, and obviously in the best interest of the community. But here's my question to you, since they're not here. Have you discussed with them the 3 conditions that staff is recommending on this application?
Yes, so I wouldn't say we had a discussion with them, but they received the staff report and I tell them to read it before the meeting, and they receive it over a week in advance of the meeting. So I didn't hear anything back as far as concerns about the
Okay,
conditions.
thank you. That's all the questions I have.
Okay.
Ms. Workins, so the applicant is not online, nor is the representative.
Yeah, I don't see them. Sorry.
Okay. Well, board, do we have enough information to move forward? Do we have anybody in opposition? Let me say that first before I go forward.
There is nobody that signed up or sent a letter in for opposition for this case.
So just as the previous case, do we have enough information to, all right, Mr. Goldstein shaking his head, so yes, we do have enough information. Ms. Allison seems like she's nodding her head a little bit. Yes, no? Okay. So at this time, I'll ask for a motion regarding this case.
I'll make a motion.
Mr. Borkin, the chair recognizes you.
Thank you, sir. I move that in BZA case 04-20-00395, that the variance to remove the 3 grand trees be granted. I believe that we have enough information provided to us by staff, also taking into account staff's recommendations to approve this variance request. I find that it meets all of the criteria. I find in criteria 1, there are extraordinary and exceptional conditions pertaining to this particular piece of property. It is an easement. It's a very long easement that I'm sure they've had to encounter many trees, and that only 3 trees being found to be impacted such that they must be removed is fairly extraordinary for the amount of distance they had to carry and the size of the water main they're installing. As to criteria 2, these conditions do not generally apply to other property in the vicinity. I think these are extraordinary because it is an easement and it runs along the edge of a highway where many trees grow, which makes this particularly difficult, but it is in fact an easement for just the purpose that they're doing to install this water main, so it is necessary. As to criteria 3, because of these conditions, the application of ordinance for a particular piece of property would effectively prohibit and unreasonably restrict the utilization of property. It is an easement, and so if it can't be an easement to convey the public utility, it would be unreasonably restricted. As to criteria 4, The authorization of variance will not be of substantial detriment to adjacent property or the public good, and the character or the zoning district will not be harmed by granting of this variance. It is a public utility easement that is running along the edge of a highway, so don't see any issues there. As to criteria 5, the Board of Zoning Appeals shall not grant a variance to effect of which would to be allow the establishment or of a use not otherwise permitted in a zoning district to extend physically a non-conforming use of land or to change the zoning district boundaries shown on the official zoning map. This does not do that. Criteria 6, the need for the variance is not a result of the applicant's own actions. It's an easement. It's a public need, a public utility that's being established, and the easement was acquired just for that purpose. So it meets criteria 6. Criteria 7, granting of the variance does not substantially conflict with the comprehensive plan or purposes of the ordinance, which it does not. I move that we approve this variance and to include conditions of staff. Condition 1, the applicant shall mitigate the removal of the 27-inch DBH grand water oak tree, the 40-inch DBH grand water oak, and the 31 DBH grand red oak tree, 90 inches total, by either A, submitting a mitigation plan for review and approval, indicating the installation of canopy trees no smaller than 2 1/2 inches and caliper equaling inch per inch replacement. B, by depositing funds in the Charleston County Tree Fund as described in section 9.4.6 of the Charleston County Zoning and Land Development Regulations, or C, a combination of both A and B. Documentation of the allotted mitigation shall be submitted, reviewed, and approved for the tree prior to its removal. Condition 2, prior to the zoning permit approval, the applicant shall install tree barricades around the grand trees to be preserved pursuant to section 9.4.4 of the Charleston County Zoning and Land Development Regulations. And finally, condition 3, prior to zoning permit approval, the applicant shall complete the site plan review process.
Thank you, Mr. Borkin. Do I have a second? Second. Second right here. All right, so this variance has been we have a motion that has been seconded. Ms. Workin, would you please call the roll for the vote?
Okay, Mr. Ray,
Aye.
Ms. Lechner,
Aye.
Ms. Allison,
Aye.
Mr. Boykin,
Aye.
Mr. Goldstein,
Don't like the tree tax, but aye.
Mr. McConnell,
Aye.
Mr. Nelson,
Aye.
and Mr. Woodall.
Aye.
Okay, that's unanimous for
Thank-
approval with the 3 conditions.
All right, folks, we have another case. Case BZA -09-20-00419. And this case will be given by Ms. Working as well.
Okay, this is case BZA 09-20-00419. The applicant and the property owner is Perfect Island LLC, which is Alan Dawson. They're represented by Seaman Whiteside and Associates. The property is located at 2630 Bryant's Dairy Road on Johns Island, tax map number 25900000074. And this is in the Agricultural Preservation AG8 zoning district. The special exception application there was BZA 0419-00330 for the establishment of a resource extraction use was approved with conditions on June 3rd, 2019. The applicant is requesting now to amend condition number 9 to extend the duration from 6 months to 24 months. Because the time ran out for them to come back and ask for a change in conditions, so they had to reapply as a new application. And then those are the sections of Zeldar in chapter 6 there. And yeah, the chapter 6 requires a special exception for resource extraction and AG8. Next, okay. And then this is just the zoning map. It shows it's bounded by Brian's Dairy, Castnet Road and LaGreeville Road. Zoomed in photo, aerial photo, and zoomed out. And these were the posting signs on the property. And this is a picture of the sign. One of the conditions from June was that they install a sign. So that's it's a little unclear, but it's there. And the subject property. And then we have a couple pictures of the roads, Brian's Dairy, LaGreeville, Castnet Road, and George Bellinger Road. Let's see here. So regarding the 6 criteria, we recommended that it met all 6 criteria with the 9 conditions. The conditions are the same as July 2019, except for the 9th condition would be amended to be 24 months instead of 6. So for this case, I did see the applicant, or at least their representative, is on the line, so they'll speak first. And then we also have 2 people signed up to speak in opposition. We did receive, you guys received the 4 letters on Friday. One was from Charles Stampley, which is going to be one of our speakers. He's 2728 Castnet. Brooke Birchie, 2649 Brian's Dairy. Jason Pennington is 2734 Castnet Road, and Janice Stampley is 2728 Castnet Road. So those were the 4 letters that were received by the deadline. I did receive one today, and they realized it was late, but they were just able to get in the letter. But it's Brandon and Kathleen Pratt and 2714 Castnet Road. So to summarize the letter, basically these 5 folks that sent in letters are opposed to the expanded time, the noise pollution, the dust pollution and air quality, and traffic dangers from trucks. But if you don't have, or if you have questions for me, if not, we'll move, I'll get the applicant on the line first.
All right, Mr. Goldstein.
Okay.
One question, Ms. Working, in your presentation, you said the sign was a little unclear. Did you mean the photo of the sign was
Yes,
unclear, or
the photo.
Okay.
I think
But
the sign is clear. I just wish we had a better photo, but that's what we had.
Okay, but the sign conforms to what we said, the phone number and all that stuff.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Does anybody else have a question of staff? Okay, if the applicant is available, Ms. Working, if you swear the applicant in.
Okay. All right. Okay, Mr. Walpole, if you can unmute.
Can you hear me?
Yes. Okay.
I have Mr. Dawson's with me in the conference room. Sorry.
Okay. Okay, great. I can swear both of you in at the same time. However, you just pick whoever speaks first, because only one person can speak at a time. So if you can please raise your right hand, I will say the oath and you will say I do. I swear to tell the truth and nothing but the truth. I do.
I do.
Thank you. Okay, I can see you guys, Jeff.
Yeah, there we go. Sorry, I had it cut off.
That's great. Okay.
All right. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you for coming tonight. And if you would, please tell us why we should approve your application.
Okay. Originally, when we got approval, we had an operator, Gulfstream Construction Company.
Sorry, can I get you to stop? Would you please state your name and address for the record, please?
Yes, it's Alan Dawson, 6773 Point Farm Road, Wadmalaw Island, 29487.
Continue, sir. Thank you.
Okay. Okay. Originally, when we came forward board and got approval, we had Gulfstream Construction, who was basically presenting the package. They withdrew, they had basically a market for the material at the time. However, they withdrew from the agreement we had because of the no discharge condition. So we were also, at the time, we were moving, or Seaman Whiteside and Gulfstream presented a design for the pond as stormwater. We were given that we had to go before DHEC and get a mining permit, which we proceeded to do. That was one of the conditions also. That took upwards of a year. We got the approval from DHEC on April 30th of 2020. Being that Gulfstream withdrew, I had to go out and find another operator for the mine. And also due to the pandemic and the conditions of the market now, there's not like Gulfstream had. They had a source for all the material, and that's why they didn't have a problem for the 6 months. We don't have that now, and we're dealing with the market driven for the material. We have, and I have entered into a new agreement with a new operator and Blue Stream Management Company. Billy Walpole is the president of this company. And like I say, given the conditions of the market right now, and it's market driven for the material, we, would like to get more time. The 6 months doesn't work for us today.
Thank you so very much, sir.
I would like to yield my time to Billy, and I think he also had signed up to speak, if that's okay.
Oh, okay, we'll get to him in just a moment.
Okay.
If anyone has a question of you, sir. Mr. Goldstein.
One question, Mr. Dawson, have you been excavating since April 30th, 2020, when you got your permit?
No, sir. We got our zoning permit was issued on October the 7th. So we went into, the clearing and all. As a matter of fact, we just started really generating material that can be marketed.
Okay.
In the last week.
Is it fair to say from the time that this board granted you permission until April 30th, 2020, that you were engaged in the permitting process?
Yes, sir. Definitely.
Okay.
DHEC.
All right. Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
Does anyone else have a question of the applicant? Mr. Boykin.
Yes, sir. Hello, Mr. Dawson. How are you?
Good. How are you doing?
Doing fine. Just a quick question. If I'm reading this right, are you asking for 24 months back from 2019? Is that, am I reading that right? June of 2019 is the 24 months starts then and goes to the future?
We would look at the date the permit was issued, which was October 7th of 2020.
Okay. So we're talking October of 2022 would be the 24 months from then to then. Okay. I'm just trying to get an idea of when this project would be through. I know one of the things we were looking at was an end date for the folks that lived out there to kind of accommodate both sides of it, your ability to extract the resource and the neighbors being impacted by the traffic.
Right. Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. So October 2022 would be when we'd be looking at the cessation of this operation, right?
Correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Does anyone else have a question of Mr. Dawson? Thank you so very much, Mr. Dawson, for your testimony tonight.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Do we have it? Well, Mr. Wapu, you would
Yes,
also
sir.
speak. If you would, please, sir, state your name, address for record, please, sir.
Yes, my name is Billy Walpole. I live at 2286 Anchorage Plantation Road on Wadmalaw.
Very good. Please tell us why we should support this application.
So really in line with Mr. Dawson, I came into this after Gulfstream had been involved, and then they stepped away due to the no discharge condition, which makes it a little more challenging. But nevertheless, we entered into an agreement to dig the pond and to sell the material into the market, and it is material sales, so it's market driven. Some challenges that we've been faced with, obviously, is COVID, and the capital behind certain development projects paused, and in some cases went away till possibly the end of this year. And so that it slowed those projects that would otherwise have taken material quicker down. But the other reason too is to truly dig this pond properly, and then also be able to operate in a better, safer manner on the roads, rather than slamming 10 acres of material out in a 6-month period. Being able to spread it out in a limited manner over a longer period of time allows us to reduce the traffic daily. And I feel like this is a safe amount of time for us to not only accomplish the excavation of the pond and meet the DHEC requirements, but also try to be a better neighbor there with the community around us. And Mr. Goldstein, you mentioned the sign there, and when I pulled the permit on October the 7th, and we had to get the silt fence, do the tree protection, and we put the entrance in, and we get our inspection with the folks there at the county. On the 9th, I got a call from one of the neighbors, Miss Stampley, and she and her husband Charles, I believe, are going to speak tonight. And she wanted to test the number on the sign to see if it actually went to somebody. So that's my personal cell phone that it comes to. So my goal was to make sure that I'm available at any time for anybody that has any issues, and rather than run from them, run to them. So the next morning, or that same time in that call on Friday, I offered to come and speak with them and anybody else on Castnet, and talk to them, introduce myself, put a face with a name, and kind of talk through the plan with them. And I did that on the 9th, and we spoke. We were there for 3 hours, myself with a lot of the neighbors, and it's a great community there. The folks on Castnet. I only want to do a much better project over there as a result of that meeting and those folks. And I want to prove that we can do something well there. A couple of things that we did in addition to what was required of us was we put in a 125-foot asphalt driveway in addition before we got to the rock, because I didn't want dangerous conditions for trucks pulling in and out of the existing paved road on Bryan's Dairy. So they pull off of asphalt onto asphalt and vice versa. Along the Castnet Road in there, we have the buffer that was approved, but also we piled up more material around the end there to try to act as a visual buffer, from the operation. And another thing that I've done in the initial phase was, I understand that burning creates smoke, and smoke settles in the neighboring areas. And rather than burning the clearing materials, I opted to hire a grinder to come in and mulch the material up so we didn't have any smoke for the community. I mean, it cost me more, but I'm trying to do what I can to be better. So I hope that I've had the opportunity to reply to some of the comments maybe that are made this evening, and hope we have an opportunity to receive this extension so that we can do this well and complete. Thank you for y'all's time.
Does anybody have a question, Mr. Wapu? Thank you so very much for your time, sir.
Thank you.
I have a quick comment for the board. You are to consider everything, but you really cannot consider financial impact or lack thereof. All right?
Yes, sir.
That's correct, Mr. Hughes. Thank you.
Okay, so I'll be muting you, but please stay on, and then you will have a rebuttal. So I'm going to mute you now. And
Who do we have in opposition now, Ms. Working?
the first speaker is Dan Winkles. Okay.
Mr. Winkles, are you available, sir? No. I wanted to see it first.
He's on. He just needs to unmute.
Mr. Winkles, please unmute your phone or device.
I just did. Thank you very much. Can you hear me?
Thank you so very much. Mr. Winkles, if
Yes,
you
sir.
would please state your name and address for us for the record, please.
My name is Dan Winkles. My address is 2710 Bryans Dairy Road, Johns Island.
All right, Ms. Working, if you would swear him in for us, please.
Oh, yes. If you can please raise your right hand, I will say the oath and you will say I do. I swear to tell the truth and nothing but the truth. I do.
I do.
Thank you.
Mr. Winkles, if you would tell us why we should why should we disapprove this application?
Sure. Thanks. Thanks for giving me and others in our community here the opportunity to voice our concerns and our wishes relative to the mining operation across the street from our homes. First of all, we wish no ill will toward the landowner or anyone on his team who are good people simply trying to do their jobs. However, for the reasons I'll list briefly, I hope we can reach some resolution that is acceptable to all. My concerns fall into 4 categories, which I'll briefly go through. The first one is safety. I live right next to the bridge on Bryans Dairy Road, which was not, I noticed, was not among the photos, but it's a very important area and affected by the operation. And literally from my kitchen window, I get a daily front row seat to the activity on that bridge. And one of the things I love most about this community that we have here on Bryans Dairy Road and in this area is that people from all over Johns Island come to fish and crab from this bridge every day. They often bring their families and kids. Just last week, I witnessed a dump truck having to slow down abruptly when he realized suddenly there's a man and what appeared to be his young daughter on the shoulder lane of this bridge. They're fishing from it. I happened to see that same man and girl today, as a matter of fact. This is, to me, a huge problem and ultimately could have tragic consequences. And I'm not sure that it's any less dangerous with a lower flow of dump trucks versus a higher. It's certainly more dangerous with more, literally thousands of dump trucks traversing that bridge over the life of this project, I imagine. The other thing that's probably not in the control of anyone on this call, but that speed limit on that bridge needs to be lowered. It's currently 45 miles an hour. So safety is, to me, the largest reason. The next reason is just a return on investment from both parties. And of course, we respect the owner's desire and right to achieve maximum return. And to accomplish that, he understandably wants to extract and sell resources. The converse of that, though, is the property owners here along Castnet Road and myself right here on the corner. We have a huge investment in our properties here. And for some of us and many of us, it's probably the biggest investment that we have. We also want to achieve maximum return and value on our investment. And as you know, we're experiencing here now a historically high real estate market. So should any of our property owners in this area decide to sell our property during this time, whether it's 6 months, 24 months, or whatever, undoubtedly we could get less for our properties than we could if this weren't going on. And regardless of whether any of us have immediate plans to sell, it's really irrelevant. As property owners, it is our right to do so if we wish. So as the holders of any investment, it's our right, to try and liquidate those investments if we choose for the maximum return. Our houses would not show very well with lots of dump truck traffic and all the operational noise that's going on. So every extension of the time.
You're out of time, unfortunately.
Yes, sir.
I'll give you 30 more seconds, sir.
Okay, that's one concern. Another one is quality of life, ability to earn a living. Many of us are working with COVID from home and on conference calls like this all day long to earn our living. The noise is a problem there. And I would just say that the requests for extension are they can start to feel like a slippery slope, and the residents here have concerns that we're looking at more of a permanent mining operation. And maybe that's our lack of understanding of how these things work. but I hope I've accurately represented the feelings of the neighbors that I've talked to, and I thank you for letting me voice my concerns today.
Thank you so very much. Hold tight. We might have someone that'd like to ask a question of you. Mr. Goldstein.
Yes, sir. You said that, Mr. Winkles, you said that you had 4 categories of concerns, and I only wrote down 3. What was the 4th, please?
Yeah, I ran out of time there. Appreciate you asking that. The first one was safety. The second was return on investment. The third was quality of life, ability to earn a living. And the 4th is just, I guess I would name this category slippery slope.
I got you.
We've got a suspicion, or at least a feeling here in this neighborhood, that there's going to be continual requests for extensions of all types just until the operation can be completed to its desired fulfillment, and that concerns us.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Goldstein. Does anyone else have a question of Mr. Winkles?
I do.
All right, Mr. Borkin.
Good evening, Mr. Winkles. How are you, sir?
Fine, thank you very much. How are you?
Doing fine. I guess I wanted to make a point. We heard this case, I guess, a little over a year ago.
Yep.
And we had a very exhaustive meeting or hearing on this, and there were a lot of concerns brought forward by your neighbors. And I thought we did a really good job addressing those by including some extra conditions due to their concerns with discharge of water off of the property, all those sorts of things. Obviously, DOT is in charge of the roadways and the traffic. As far as the bridge is concerned, I mean, a lot of bridges in the low country have signs that prohibit fishing and crabbing from bridges because it's especially hazardous and dangerous because of the traffic, regardless whether it be dump trucks or not.
Sure.
I guess what I'm trying to say is I believe we approved this application the last time it was before us by a unanimous vote after considering all those factors. I don't see anything that you have brought forward that probably wasn't covered last time. And the fact that we did approve it unanimously, I don't know anything's changed since we did. And I would have a problem, I suppose, if Mr. Dawson had been digging and excavating and now was coming back to ask for more time. But it appears from his testimony that they have not taken any action to pursue the permit they had in hand due to unforeseen circumstances. So I just wanted to tell you that I hear your concerns. We heard them before, and they're not taken lightly. We worked very hard to come to a resolution last time, but I just don't see anything that you've raised tonight that's any different than we heard the first time.
Thank you, Mr. Borkins. We appreciate that. Does anybody else have a comment? Okay. Thank you, Mr. Winkles. We appreciate your testimony tonight.
Thank you for the opportunity. Appreciate that.
Yes, sir. Ms. Workin, do we have someone else?
Yes, I need to get on Mr. Stampley. Hold on. Okay. Mr. Stampley, can you hear us? Oh, I don't think he, hold on. Okay, Mr. Stampley, can you hear me? Says he's not muted. Mr. Stampley, I see you're not muted. Can you hear us? We can't hear you. Oh, there he is. I can see him. We can't hear you. You can dial in if that works. Try that. Looks like they got a technical team there. I don't see him anymore.
It's working. Do we have someone else to speak in opposition?
He was the last speaker. He was on. I don't know if you saw his video, but his video was on. I just couldn't hear him. So.
It's working. Let's give it one more minute here. Then I guess we just have to conclude.
And I could read his letter while we're waiting. If you have
That would be good. Thank you. Please read his letter so he signs on.
But if he does come on, just let us know. You're on there. Let's see. Honorable Charleston County Council members, we are opposed to an extension on the agreed 6-month work period at Brian's Dairy Sand Mine. We have already been to 2 meetings about this property and we're told that the council would be opposed to and frown upon a third. We are already dealing with daily noise and dust pollution and don't think our community should have to endure more than the allotted time frame. Just today, I had a close call with a dump truck coming off River Road onto Brian's Dairy Road, cutting the corner too close. The trucks are not running at full capacity yet. It only gets more dangerous. Our mailboxes are at the end of Castnet Road and it is common to have two-way closed traffic while getting our mail. And lastly, this will definitely have an adverse effect over the next 2 years on property values that we pay taxes on. I hope that all the council has accounted for all these facts going forward. And he's at 2728.
Thank you, Ms. Working. Mr.
Yes.
Stamp, are you there, sir?
It says he's on muted.
Nod your head. There we go. Mr. Stampley, if you can hear us, could you just nod your head, please, sir?
Yeah, he could hear you.
Okay.
He needs a teenager.
Okay. Sir, unfortunately, we're going to have to move on, and it is unfortunate we can't get your testimony tonight, but we did read your letter, and the board will take that into consideration, sir. I do apologize for your technical difficulty tonight. So at this time, that was the last person that spoke in opposition?
Yes, that's correct.
So, Mr. Wapu, you now have our attention for rebuttal. You have 2 minutes, sir.
Let me go in and unmute him. So hold on a second. Okay, you guys should be unmuted now.
Can
Okay.
you hear us now?
Yes.
Good now?
Yes.
Okay, sorry. I was trying to call Miss Stampley to get her to be able to call in through our phone if possible to get her on, but
Oh, that was nice.
Let me say something real quick with your 2 minutes.
okay.
I just wanted to mention, we rezoned this property originally, had 16 lots on the PUD. We went to 7. We were a hero to both the council and the community at the time. And I want to say that at the end of the day, when this is done, we want to remain a hero with the community. They were very receptive to us reducing the density over 50% on that property. So that's our goal, to be a good neighbor. And I think at the end of the day, we will be.
Yeah, so
Thank you. So anything else, Mr. Wapu?
I saw Mr.
Yeah, well, yes, I'll get
Okay.
Mr. Goldstein.
Yeah, I had a question. Mr. Walpole, listening to your neighbors' concerns, I think you are a hero to them with regard to the, your plan for your property. I think what troubles them, and I honestly don't know how to address it, is what happens after the dump trucks leave your property. That I hear their complaints being not about your project or what you're doing on your property, but what happens on the surrounding roadways when the dump trucks leave. And I don't know how we can come up with a solution for that. I'm open to any suggestions.
So, and sorry for any confusion there, Mr. Goldstein. That was Mr. Dawson just speaking.
I meant Mr. Dawson. I stand correct. I'm sorry. I apologize.
So, I guess I can speak to the operation. I'll speak to the operational side. So, yes, you know, trucks are on the road every day, and you're exactly right. I mean, and Mr. Stampley, you know, when these comments came out, the very first individual I reached out to was Mr. Stampley because he had the potential run in there with the dump truck off of River Road at Bryan's Dairy. And I don't know if for some of you that have made that turn at Bryan's Dairy and River Road, you know it's just one of those old intersections that is just a poor design and isn't a 90-degree turn. And you got to nose out if you're leaving their house. If you're a truck coming on or anybody else, you have the potential to come across that lane there. As far as the speed goes, the speed actually on that bridge and in that turn is posted at 35 miles an hour. The Bryan's Dairy is 45 and then it drops to 35 in the S curves at Bryan's Dairy. And in the pit, I have some signs that I had made and posted as you're exiting the pit, reminding drivers to look both ways when they exit, also reminding them of their 35 mile an hour speed. Although it's 45 on Bryan's Dairy, I want them to feel or believe that it's 35 on the whole road rather than the posted 45. I have spoken to a lady that was walking her baby down the road in the afternoon a few weeks ago. And, you know, there's folks that are using a roadway that's used for, you know, it's a DOT roadway and it's for vehicular traffic. And you know, I guess there's a risk with the truck. There's also a risk with the person's vehicle as well that's coming through there. There's a very bad spot on Bryan's Dairy, right at the entrance to the pit where a tree root has grown and busted the asphalt up. I have 6 requests into DOT to come out and address that. And we haven't started hauling yet, but I wanted to bring that to the attention of DOT. I also shared that link with the neighbors there at the meeting that I had with them on their Miss Stampley's house on the 9th, because I want to do what I can to help them fix those issues on the road. I don't, you know, as far as, I mean, to Mr. Goldstein, I don't know how else I can address it other than be aware of the individuals that I have that are coming and going from our operation. And like I told the Stampleys and the others in the community, I don't tolerate any kind of disrespectful or unsafe driving behaviors, and those individuals or companies are banned from returning to the pit. I mean, that's all we can do. That's the same things that most reputable operators do in the market when folks are unsafe. Even some of the owners sit out with radar guns themselves, you know, to monitor speeds. I mean, it's very important to me that it's operated in a safe manner.
Thank you so very much for your testimony.
Thank you.
All right. So we've heard the rebuttal. Does any other board member have a question?
Mr. Wappel, I reside over on Chisholm Road. We've got our share of dirt pits over here, to say the least, and most of them are already closed. But we dealt with the heavy dump truck traffic, and sometimes the thoughtless drivers that drove too fast and were overloaded. Some even had accidents over here. But one thing that we were able to do was to contact the Sacramento State Transport Police They came out and they lit them up, and you know, they got CDLs to worry about. And so generally a couple of interventions with the transport police calm things down. Would you be willing to make that call if you saw those dump truck drivers operating dangerously?
Absolutely. Multiple times if necessary. Hopefully it's only once or twice that's needed.
All right, thank you.
Thank you so very much. Anyone else from the board? Thank you so very much, Mr. Walpole.
Thank you for your time.
Yes,
Thank you.
please hold tight.
Okay.
At this time, the board will entertain a motion for approval or denial on this particular case. Do we have anyone that would like to make a motion? At this time, do we have anybody like to make a motion? Thank you, Mr. Goldstein.
I'll be the bad guy. I'm gonna make a motion that the application for an 24-month extension till October 2022 be granted. I make this motion based on the following findings of fact. One, that the application is consistent with the recommendations of the Charleston County Comprehensive Plan and is consistent with the underlying district. And let me comment on that particular issue. I'm persuaded, especially by Mr. Dawson's testimony about reducing density so that the project, when it is complete and when the property is fully developed, it will have less of an impact on the surrounding neighbors than he's entitled to do under the law. So I think that does sort of make him a hero to his neighbors. I realize there's some temporary pain, but based on that testimony, I think they meet criteria 1. And I think they have demonstrated that it is compatible with existing uses in the vicinity. So they meet criteria 2. And as Mr. Boykin pointed out, we placed extensive conditions on this project when it was originally permitted. And so therefore they easily meet the criteria 3. As for criteria 4, it will be developed in a way that will preserve and incorporate natural features. And I realize there will be pain for the next 24 months with these dump trucks, and they are obnoxious. There's no doubt about it. But at the end of the day, it will be a benefit to the surrounding neighbors, and it will maximize the inherent value of the surrounding properties. So I think they meet criteria 4. It is, as for criteria 5, it is compatible with all the rules, regulations, standards of South Carolina law. Number 6 is the troublesome one. Number 6 is that vehicular traffic will obviously be affected by this project and will cause an enhanced danger to people using. I'm familiar with Bryan Dairy Road. As a matter of fact, a friend of mine ran his Mustang into the marsh there at that 90-degree turn. So I'm well aware that how dangerous that turn is. But I'm also persuaded to make this motion based on the extensive limitations that we placed on the project. It does have a time limit. And certainly Mr. Walpole's testimony demonstrates that he is a person of good faith who has done his utmost to mitigate the damage to the surrounding neighbors. So I think they meet criteria 6, although I think Mr. Winkles and Mr. Stampler have both demonstrated that it will impact pedestrian and vehicular traffic on Bryan's Dairy Road, but I think they squeak by on number 6. And in making this motion, I want to incorporate the same conditions that we originally incorporated, which are listed as conditions 1 through 9. And I don't think I really need to read them. They're the same ones that we appended to the original. And also in making this motion, I also am persuaded, as I think Mr. Boykin pointed out, that the delay in this project, they have not been excavating all this time. They've been caught up in the permitting process. And so really they haven't even gotten started. So for all those reasons, I make a motion that the application be approved.
Thank you, Mr. Goldstein. Do I have a second?
Mr. Chair, I'd like to second Mr. Goldstein's motion and add that one of those conditions that we put on there is that we limited the days and hours of operation for these dump trucks as Monday through Friday from 7 in the morning to 5 in the evening to avoid having dump trucks on the road at night and on weekends to try to mitigate some of the traffic concerns. So I happily second Mr. Goldstein's motion.
Mr. Goldstein, you have to approve of that.
Yeah, no, it's already number 2. Condition number 2, which was part of my motion, is the days and hours of operation for this project shall not exceed Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. So in making the motion, I was appending all of those conditions. Do you want me to just go down very briefly?
No, sir.
Okay.
But Mr. Borkin, was there anything you said different than item 2?
No, Mr. Ray, I apologize for the confusion. I was just making a commentary to support my reason for seconding the motion and to address the issue of traffic concern. I was just reiterating a condition that Mr. Goldstein already had in place.
Thank you, sir. So, Ms. Workin, we have an application that has received has been moved in second. If you would call the vote.
Okay. Mr. Ray,
Aye.
Ms. Lechner,
Aye.
Ms. Allison,
Aye.
Mr. Boykin,
Aye.
Mr. Goldstein,
Aye.
Mr. McConnell,
Aye.
Mr. Nelson,
Aye.
and Mr. Woodall.
Aye.
That is unanimous with the 9 conditions.
Well, Mr. Walpole, congratulations once again. Within 10 business days or working days, you'll get a letter from staff detailing exactly what the next steps will be to proceed, to move forward with this case, okay? Thank you so very much and congratulations. Okay. Our next case for tonight will be case BZA 09-20-00420, and that will also be done by Ms. Working.
Okay. Just give me 1 minute. I'm trying to get the participants off from the last. Sorry. Okay, I think we're good now. So this is case BZA 09-20-00420. The applicant is Braves in the South LLC, Brandon Lapp. The property owner is 24/7 Consultants LLC, Paul Keller. The property is located at 3338 Maybank Highway on Johns Island, tax map number 27900000035. The zoning district is MHCO, the Maybank Highway Corridor Overlay, in the Commercial Transitional Zoning District. The request is a special exception for the sale of alcoholic beverages on site, beer and wine, in a restaurant in the Maybank Highway Corridor Overlay Commercial Transitional Zoning District. And this is a requirement of Chapter 6 in our zoning ordinance. These are just the sections in the ordinance that are applicable to the case. The zoning map shows it's CT in that overlay. And this is the 500-foot radius. So when we have alcohol sales requests, we do notify a little bit larger. The typical case is 300 feet. This is a 500-foot radius. And the zoomed in aerial and zoomed out aerial. And then the posting sign. And pictures of the property and surrounding properties and Maybank Highway. So regarding the criteria for this one, we said it meets 1, 3, 4, 5, and 6. We said it may meet number 2. And we were suggesting 2 conditions. The condition number 1 That's the hours that are allowed in the CT district. I don't think they want that. They're not planning on being open from 6 to 11, but that gives them the option because that is allowed under CT, those hours. And then the second condition has to be, they just have to provide documentation to us that they got their state approval.
Thank you, Ms. Working.
Yeah, the site plan and then the plat. And that's it. Do you have any questions for staff?
Does anyone have any questions of staff? I'm seeing no. Thank you, Ms. Working. Is the applicant available?
Yes, let's see here. And this is.
There you go.
Okay, Brandon Lepp, I promoted you to panelist. Can you hear us?
Hey, I can hear you. How are you?
Good. Let's see, we can see your picture.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
All right. This is Brandon Lapp, 3565 Hunters Oak Lane, Johns Island, South Carolina.
Okay, and please raise your right hand. I will say the oath and you will say I do. I swear to tell the truth and nothing but the truth I do.
I do.
Thank you.
Good afternoon or good evening, Mr. Lapp. How are you today, sir?
I'm well. How are you today?
I'm well, thank you. Please take a few minutes and explain to this board why we should approve your application, sir.
Absolutely. We are a new restaurant on Johns Island. We've started off very well in the process with food service. We'd like to be able to provide our guests with a can of beer, or a glass of wine with their dinner. And that's about where we're at. Hello?
That's good. Thank you so much. Anything else, sir, that you'd like to tell this board?
Nope, I don't think so.
Well, thank you, Mr. Lapp. Please hold tight. We'll see if any one of this board has a question. If any of the board members have a question for the applicant. I see no heads or hands. Okay. Thank you so very much, Mr. Lapp, for your time tonight.
Absolutely.
Stay on, I'm just gonna mute you.
Ms. Working, do we have anyone else to speak in favor of this application?
No, no one else to speak in favor or in opposition for this case.
Okay. Very good. So board, do we have any other questions of staff at this time, since we have no other applicants to speak in favor or deny? Yes, Mr. Goldstein.
Two questions. And maybe I read it in the materials and I just forgot, but what's next door? And the second question is the proposal to sell beer and wine only, no liquor?
I unmuted the applicant, but I believe it's the tattooed moose next door. And that.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
Yeah.
I remember now. Yeah, okay.
And he's only
It is the
asking
tattoo booth.
for beer and wine. Is
Okay.
that correct?
That's correct. So the Tattooed Moose is next door to us. We do have a residential property on the other side, but we only plan to sell beer and wine. We don't want to do any liquor or anything like that.
But Tattooed Moose sells beer and wine too, doesn't it?
Absolutely. And they are their own beast. We have no desire to compete with them. We're not looking to attract that crowd or anything that they do. We are a family-friendly restaurant. We're not looking to attract that.
Okay.
Anyone else have any questions, comments?
Oh, no, sorry.
Okay. Well, thank you. Well, at this time, we'll close the case to the public and we'll also entertain a motion. Ms. Allison, it is good to hear you.
My dogs are barking a lot, so it's hard to talk sometimes. So for case BZA-09-20-00420, I'll make a motion to approve based on the following criteria. Number one, that is consistent with the recommendations contained in the Charleston County Comprehensive Plan. Criteria 2, it is compatible with existing uses in the vicinity. Criteria 3, adequate provision has been made for items to protect adjacent properties from possible adverse influence of the proposed use. For criteria 4, where applicable, the site will be developed in a way that will preserve and incorporate natural features. For criteria 5, it complies with all applicable rules, regulations, laws, and standards of the ordinance. And for criteria 6, vehicular, traffic, and pedestrian movement shall not be hindered or endangered. And I would attach the staff recommendations. 1, that the restaurant will be limited to operating hours between 6 a.m. and 11 p.m. And 2, that the applicant will meet all requirements of the state of South Carolina for alcoholic beverage sales and provide proof of that approval to zoning and planning staff.
Very good, Ms. Allison. At this time, do we have a second? All right, Ms. Lettner, I think I saw your hand first. Thank you. Ms. Workin, would you please call the roll for the vote?
Okay. Mr. Ray?
Aye.
Ms. Lechner?
Aye.
Ms. Allison?
Aye.
Mr. Boykin?
Aye.
Mr. Goldstein?
Aye.
Mr. McConnell?
Aye.
Mr. Nelson?
Aye.
And Mr. Woodall?
Aye.
Okay, that was unanimous for approval with the 2 conditions.
Mr. Lapp, congratulations on the approval of your application. Is he still there?
He is. I probably have him muted. But
All right, within 10 days, you'll get a certified letter from the staff letting you know the next step in the process. Thank you so very much. Board, the next case that we have on the docket tonight.
Thank you very much, y'all.
Thank you, sir. The next case that we have on the docket tonight is case BZA 09-20-00421. And that will be done by Mr. Joshua Downing.
Good evening. The applicant, Robin Crump, on behalf of the owner, Rebecca Loftus, is requesting a special exception to establish a short-term rental, extended home rental in the DUWAP DuPont Wapu overlay, single-family R4 residential zoning district at 1853 Medway Drive, TMS number 351-1400016 in the St. Andrews area in Charleston County. The subject property and the properties to the north and south are in the DuWapu overlay district, single-family residential R4, and the properties to the to the east and west are in this jurisdiction of the city of Charleston. The property contains a 1,293 square foot, 1-story ranch style home with 4 bedrooms that was constructed in 1987 for Charleston County records. Currently, the subject property is in site plan review process ZSPR 0320000456 for the proposed use. Subject property, the applicant STR application states that a maximum of 3 bedrooms will be rented and 5 parking spaces will be provided as shown on the proposed site plan, and the property will be non-owner occupied. Staff conducted a site visit on October 13th, 2020. The Board of Zoning Appeals may approve with conditions, or deny BZA case 09-200412, special exception to establish a short-term rental, extended home rental in the DuWapu DuPont Overlay District, single-family residential R4 zoning district at 1853 Medway Drive, TMS number 351-1400016 in the St. Andrews area in Charleston County, based on the BZA's fact finding, unless additional information is deemed necessary to make an informed decision. In the event the board decides to approve the application, the board should consider the following recommendations by staff. Number 1, prior to zoning permit, the applicant shall complete the site plan review process. Number 2, the use shall comply with all articles of 6.8. And number 3, the property owner shall be responsible for ensuring that the tenants comply with the Charleston County noise ordinance.
Thank you, Mr. Downing. Do we have any questions of staff? Any board members have a question of staff? Mr. Downey. Very good. Ms. Working, is the applicant available?
Yes, she is. I'm gonna get her on. Robin. Okay, Robin, you're on as a, okay, I could, yep. Let's see if I can see.
All right, Ms. Crump.
Hi.
Thank you for meeting with us tonight. Ms. Working, would you swear?
Thank you. I love doing it this way. I'm sitting in my chair in my nightgown and we're just waiting on our turn. This is much better.
Okay, great. If you could please raise your right hand, I will say the oath and you will say I do. I swear to tell the truth and nothing but the truth. I do.
I do.
Thank you.
Well, thank you, Ms. Crump. If you would, please state your name and address for the record, please, ma'am.
My name is Robin Crump. I'm at 5729 Bluffton Road, Hollywood, South Carolina, 29449.
Very good. Ms. Crump, please tell us why we should approve your application.
You should approve our application, number one, because it is a much more desired way to enjoy Charleston. We have a lot of couples that want to come down. We have been renting it and to great people, but they, for example, some Citadel cadets rented it this summer. They were wonderful, but it was a higher traffic. We had, 3 boys in there. They all had cars. They all had friends. We just feel like, based on experiences we've had with short-term rentals, that you have a more quality for the neighborhood, because it is usually just one couple, maybe 2, 1 car. They're gone all day sightseeing, etc.
Okay, is there anything else you would like to tell us?
I do not think so.
Well, very good. Let me see if any one of our board members has a question for you. Board members, does any of you have a question for Ms. Crump?
I just know that Mr. Woodall feels better about attending in his Winnie the Pooh onesies now.
Okay, that's good. I was hoping y'all would not put me on video. I was like, uh-oh.
Well, that might just help your case.
It
Anyone-
might. There you go. Good job. We'll vote for you again.
Anyone else? Very good. Thank you, Ms. Crump, for your
Thank you.
Ms. Working, do we have anyone else to speak in favor of this?
No, we have no one else to speak in favor or in opposition for this case.
Very good. Board, do we have enough information to make a motion? Would anybody at this time like to make a motion?
I'll
Mr.
make it.
Working, Chair recognizes you, sir.
Sure. Happy to make the motion. I move in the case BZA-09-20-00421 that we approve the application for extended home rental. I find that it meets all of the criteria based on the planning director's review and report and testimony provided at this hearing. As to criteria 1, it is consistent with the recommendations contained in the Charleston County Comprehensive Plan and the character of the underlying zoning district as indicated in the zoning district description. Number 2, that it is compatible with existing uses in the vicinity and will not adversely affect the general welfare or character of the immediate community. 3, adequate provision has been made for such items as setbacks, buffering, including fences and/or landscaping to protect adjacent properties from possible adverse influence of proposed use, such as noise, vibration, dust, glare, odor, traffic congestion, and similar factors. Criteria 4, where applicable, it will be developed in a way that will preserve and incorporate any important natural features. Number 5, it does comply with all applicable rules, regulations, laws, and standards of this ordinance, including but not limited to any conditions, use conditions, zoning district standards, or site plan review requirements of this ordinance. And criteria 6, that vehicular traffic and pedestrian movement on adjacent roads shall not be hindered or endangered. And that I would include in this motion the conditions set forth by staff that 1, prior to zoning permit approval, the applicant shall complete the site plan review process. 2, the use shall comply with all requirements of Article 6.8. And 3, the property owner shall be responsible for ensuring that tenants comply with the Charleston County noise ordinance.
Thank you, Mr. Borkin. We've heard a motion. Do we have a second? Mr. Woodall, I saw your hand first. Thank you. Now that this application has been voted on, made a motion, and we have a second, Ms. Working, would you please call the roll for the vote?
Okay, Mr. Ray,
Aye.
Ms. Lechner,
Aye.
Ms. Allison,
Aye.
Mr. Boykin,
Aye.
Mr. Goldstein,
Aye.
Mr. McConnell,
Aye.
Mr. Nelson,
Aye.
and Mr. Woodall.
Aye.
Okay, so it's unanimous approval with the 3 conditions.
Well, Ms. Crump, congratulations.
Thank you.
Application approved. We wish you the very best of luck. Within 10 working days, you will get a notice from the staff to let you know the exact steps to take next. Once again, congratulations.
Thank y'all for all you do.
All right. We're moving relatively quickly tonight. Our next case will be case BZA 09-20-00422. And this will be presented by Ms. Working.
Okay, the applicant for this case is Wheezy's of South Carolina, Keith Cummings. The property owner is Kivo Atlanta LLC, Kenneth Berlinski. The property is located at 2052 River Road on Johns Island, TMS number 345-000060, and it's located in the Community Commercial CC zoning district. The special exception request is for sale of alcoholic beverages, beer, wine, and liquor in a restaurant, ice cream store, and the Community Commercial zoning district. And that's the requirement in Zeldar for Chapter 6. When you're within 500 feet of a residence, it requires a special exception. And the sections in Chapter 6. This is the zoning map, so it does show everything in yellow is everything in yellow is residential. The commercial parcels are shown in red. And this is the 500-foot radius map. So again, we do a larger mail out for the alcohol cases. This is the aerial showing the location on River at the corner of River and Coker. And a zoomed out aerial. Picture of the posting, and then some pictures of the building and surrounding property and roads. River Road and Coger, it looks like. So regarding the 6 criteria for this one, we said it meets 1, 3, 4, 5, and 6. We said that it may not meet number 2. And again, that's because of proximity to the residences in this case. I don't have anyone signed up to speak. I did get a call like right at 4 of somebody that said they were protesting, I guess, the alcohol, the state license. They're going to send a petition in to the state.
So Ms. Working, you saying the applicant is not available?
I think they are. There's no speakers in opposition for this one. I just got a phone call like at 4, somebody stating that they were opposed. Max Highlander. He didn't give me his address either, but yes, I can get the applicant on. Yeah, and then there's the 2 conditions, the limited site plan review, and what was that? And again, the proof of sales once they have that from the state.
Okay, does anyone have any questions of Ms. Working? No? Well, Ms. Working, let's see if we can get the applicant on.
Yeah. Okay, Mr. Cummings? Can you unmute, please? There you go. Please raise your right hand. I will say the oath and you will say I do. I swear to tell the truth and nothing but the truth. I do.
I do.
Thank you. And just state your name and address for the record.
Keith Cummings, 3252 Olivia Marie Lane, Johns Island.
Thank you, Mr. Cummings, for meeting with us tonight.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
I see you have some support there as well.
Yes, my wife and one of our employees, managers.
Very good. Please tell this august body why we should approve your application, sir.
All right, sir. So we own two different ice cream stores here in the Outer Banks in North Carolina. It is very, very seasonal here. So by coming down to South Carolina, the Johns Island area, and opening up our potential new establishment, we figured that an ice cream store just won't be able to be able to pay the lease yearly. And we would really like to have year-round employment for the folks there on Johns Island, James Island, and surrounding areas. I think it'll be beneficial that way for us to have year-round employees. It would be a better place, maybe an incentive now for people to work. So why we would love to, why we wanted to bring in the beer, wine, and liquor is that in order to, we think, afford our lease, have year-round employees, we're going to have to add something a little bit different to the establishment. We're being just an ice cream store, it would not be able to support first employees for full-time and our lease that we're going to be having. The other thing would be we're going to introduce small bites other than the sweet stuff. We're going to have small bites of food. And also we love to cater to our whole surrounding area. The residential explosion in that area, I think, will be very beneficial, and they're going to need something to do, somewhere to go. And we're going to be a very, very friendly family establishment like we are here on the Outer Banks. But at the same time, we would love to give the adults the option to get a liquor milkshake or a real beer float. We'd like to offer a nice glass of wine to the stressed out parents of the kids in order, to bring them there, to give them something good to have. We're very, very family oriented. We at no means want a late night bar. We're not going to be a shot in a beer bar. We're not going to have loud music. We're just going to be able to offer adults and families and kids alone all the benefits of having an ice cream store, and at the same time giving them something to, something nice to eat. And that's in order to sustain our lease and sustain a year-round opportunity. We're going to have to have small bites. We're going to have to broaden our horizons there, and in order to make it work, I think in the best location possible for us to do that.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Cummings.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
I'm going to start off with this one. I picked up your application last week and I looked at it myself. I love ice cream float. So I played with the idea of putting some alcohol, some rum as a matter of fact, in a little thing of ice cream. Didn't do too well. But I'm sure that you have the right blend and the right formula. Tell me a little bit about how you're going to put a little ice cream in a float or put a true root beer float, I guess. Tell me a little bit more about that.
Okay, well, for instance, we can take just a regular vanilla flavored ice cream and put it into a Guinness. That creamy of the Guinness with the creamy of the vanilla, it just, they blend. There's other homemade local beers there that we'll be able to use, that we're going to be able to mix in with some of our chocolates, like a chocolate stout beer. We could put a dabble of chocolate in, or we can make a black and white chocolate stout with some vanilla ice cream. And that's what we really want to do. We're going to use all local distributors there. We're going to try to use as much as we can. We're going to try to do any of our sandwiches. We're going to try to do a local produce. We're going to try to buy as local as we can with everything. We're also going to offer a frosé, a rosé wine that's going to be put into a margarita machine. So we're going to be able to serve that in the midst of the summer when it's blazing hot. So that gives them something else to do. We're just going to try to branch out and keep it very, very friendly. We also like to incorporate with the families and offer things to the local churches and do donations or do parties and, for kids, ice cream parties, get a potential maybe mobile little cart maybe for the local, the communities there.
Very good. I like that. Final question. Is this something that you did in North Carolina as well with the ice cream and alcohol?
No, this is actually going to be, and where we're at in the Outer Banks, it's very, very, it's a highly, as probably you all already know, it's a highly tourist area. We have maybe 5 months out of the year we can actually make a living. And the places that we do lease out, we're in areas where there's already not enough parking. The bars that are already there. They don't have the buildings aren't built to hold what we really wanted to do with the permitting and so forth there. But now we just that's why we wanted to bring it down that way so we can have year round. We're really the business they do well, but it's very, very seasonal, and it's very, very hard to keep employees because we can't offer incentives, we can't offer benefits, we can't have a year round. And you can't offer the year-round work that people are really, the employment is really people are really wanting. So it's kind of hard to find people that want to work a seasonal business. It's really hard. So we kind of wanted to try to branch it out. So we need to add the additions to them in order to have the year-round employment for people and to be able to pay our landlord.
Thank you so very much, Mr. Cummings. Does anyone else have a question for Mr. Cummings? Mr. Goldstein.
Yes, sir. If the Irish find out you're putting ice cream in Guinness, you're going to have to hire some extra security.
This makes it creamier.
The Irish probably would not agree with that.
Which is true.
You can't improve upon perfection.
No, you cannot.
Mr. Nelson, did I see your hand, sir? No? No. Anyone else? That's a question of the applicant. Thank you, Mr. Cummings. Now, yes, Mr. Cummings, did you have anybody else there that'd like to speak in favor of your application?
You want to add anything? My wife is here. She may want to add.
Ms. Cummings, would you like to add?
I can.
We need to get you to swear in first, Ms. Cummings, if you don't mind.
Yep.
Is it working?
I swear to tell the truth and nothing but the truth. I do.
I do.
Thanks.
We are just really looking to expand what we do here. We just are not able to do that here, unfortunately. So we just really thought that this would be a good addition and something to do in the community. Last year when I wanted to get ice cream, there wasn't a place to get ice cream unless I just wanted to go to Harris Teeter or Food Lion. And the novelty of being able to go get an ice cream and just right down the street is kind of nice. I enjoy going and getting ice cream, as I'm sure a lot of people do. But the novelty of it is a fun thing to do, and that's kind of what we want, is something for the families to do, because it is exploding over there with families and kids, and I think having the kid-friendly ice cream where mom and dad can get a liquor milkshake while they eat their ice cream, and then you go home after soccer practice, I think it's a wonderful little thing that families can do together. So I just think it's a great little addition to John's Island, because there is a lot of wonderful restaurants there, but nothing really dessert wise. But that would be my little take.
I'd like to add something too. We're going to be a full-fledged shop. We're going to do it all. It's going to be your banana splits. I mean, we'll do all your different, like I said, all your floats. You'll do sundaes. So we're not just going to be a kind of a cup and cone ordeal. It's going to be a full-fledged shop.
Yeah, and it's all hand scooped ice cream.
It's all hand scooped ice cream too. So yeah, it's
good.
No salt.
Would I be safe to say that you two share the same address?
Yes.
Would you just please state your address?
3252 Olivia Marie Lane, Johns Island.
Thank you so very much. No, does anyone have a question for Ms. Cummings? Thank you both.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
The property owner is on the line too. I can get him on if he wants to add anything.
Yes, please.
Okay.
Work property owner.
Okay. Mr. Berlinski, if you can just unmute. There you go. Okay. Would you like to add anything to the discussion?
Yeah, I'm just excited about this use. I don't know if y'all remember, I was in front of you, I guess a year ago. It's been a tough project. We've had to get 7 variances the last time, and here I am again. But, you know, I did build a nice tall fence around the whole property. So it should be pretty quiet. And I'm just hoping that this just seems like a nice family ice cream, and we've got, you know, some other good tenants in there, you know, with the hair salon and a physical therapist, and we're just getting a lot of compliments on the building, and I'm hoping that we can continue that.
Thank you, Mr. Berlinski. Can we get you to state your name and address for the record, please, sir?
Kenneth Berlinski, 2108 Wapu Hall Road, Charleston, South Carolina, 29412.
Thank you so very much. Does any board member have a question of Mr. Berlinski? I see none. Thank you so very much.
All right, thank you.
For your testimony.
Thank you.
Ms. Working, do we have anyone else to speak in favor of this application?
That's it.
Anyone in opposition?
No.
Okay. Well, thank you. Board, at this time, do you have any other questions of the board, of staff, I should say? No questions of staff. At this time, I'd like to make room for someone to make a motion for this application, either to approve or deny. Was that Mr.? Okay, Mr. Nelson. Thank you, sir.
No problem. All right. In the case of BZA 0920-00422, I move that we approve, I believe this was a variance, correct? Special exception.
Special exception.
We approve the special exception. I find that it does meet all 6 criteria. It is consistent with the Charleston County Comprehensive Plan. Number 2, it is compatible with the existing uses in the vicinity and will not adversely affect the general welfare or character of the immediate community. In saying that, I do recognize that there are residences within 500 feet of the property, but this is a commercial area as well, and seems to be an appropriate use. And this type of activity should not be detrimental to the residences in the area. And plus, we had very few comments from adjacent property owners opposed to the proposed use. I find that adequate setbacks have been, or adequate provisions have been made for setbacks, bufferings, etc. Number 4, where applicable, the property will be developed in a way that will preserve and incorporate any important natural features. I believe that was done prior when this particular property was developed. And 6, that the proposed project will not result in vehicular traffic or pedestrian movement on adjacent roads, that will not be hindered or endangered. I do believe that we should incorporate the 2 proposed special conditions outlined by staff, that the applicant and property owner shall complete the limited site plan review process prior to obtaining a zoning permit for interior upfit and for obtaining building inspection services permit. And 2, the applicant shall meet all requirements of the state of South Carolina for alcoholic beverage sales and provide proof of state approval to the zoning and planning staff prior to zoning permit approval to establish the proposed business.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Nelson, for your motion. Do we have a second? I'll second it. How about that? So, Ms. Working, could you call the roll for the vote?
Sure. Mr. Ray?
Aye.
Ms. Lechner?
Aye.
Ms. Allison?
Aye.
Mr. Boykin?
Aye.
Mr. Goldstein?
Aye.
Mr. McConnell?
Yum, yum, yes.
Mr. Nelson?
Aye.
And Mr. Whittle?
Aye.
Yeah, I'm kind of hungry. That sounds good. Okay,
Oh.
it's unanimous approval with the 2 conditions.
Cummings family,
Thank you. Thank you.
congratulations. Within 10 business days, you'll get notice from the staff letting you know the next step that you'll need to take in order to move forward. Once again, congratulations. And hopefully you see some of these board members helping you out in sales.
Come on over. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Very good. Best of luck.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Have a
Thank
good
you.
night.
Board, we've moved our old business to the end of the agenda. And if we can, I'd like to give the floor to Ms. Working so we can move into that old meeting business.
Yeah. Take them back here. Okay, this is case BZA 0420000397. The applicant and property owner is Tori Bolts. The representative is Brandon Gaskins, Esquire of Moore and Ben Allen. The property is located at 6539, 6543, 6555, and 6569 Maybank Highway on Walnut Island. Tax map number 15100000095, and it's located in the Agricultural Preservation AG 15 zoning district. This is a reconsideration of the BZA's decision made on July 20th, 2020 to approve a variance request to allow an existing gravel sand shell driveway to remain within the required 35-foot Ostrom critical line buffer. So the requirement from Zeldar is Chapter 3 Development Review, Article 3.7 Site Plan Review. 3.71 applicability states that the entire site shall be brought into compliance with all applicable ordinance standards at the time of site plan review. And then the 35-foot buffer in Article 9.7 lists the prohibited activities within the 35-foot buffer. And let's see, next slide. This is a photo of the driveway that was provided by the applicant and just showing the location of the driveway in yellow. The zoning map and shows all 4 structures there. These are the ordinance requirements. Zoomed in aerial, zoomed out aerial.
Ms. Working, we're having difficulty hearing you.
Oh, sorry, I'm fading. This is one of the signs. I think this is actually the July, but we posted each time. This is from the original packet. Yeah. And then some maps show, from the applicant. Regarding the criteria, let's see. We have not changed the report, but the criteria, we said it may meet number 1, 2, 3, 4, and 7. We said it does not meet 6, and it meets 5. The criteria. And then I just pulled this out. This is Zeldar Article 310, zoning variances, section 310.5, BZA hearing and decision. That A, you shall approve conditions or deny the proposed zoning variance based on the approval criteria. So if you want to make a motion to approve, it has to meet all 7 criteria. B, a majority of the BZA constitutes a quorum. We have a quorum today. We only have 8 of the 9 members, but it's a quorum. And then at least 2/3 of the members present and voting are required to approve a zoning variance. Last time we didn't recommend any conditions, so we're not recommending any this time as well. I think that's just another site plan, sorry. Yeah. And this was a site plan that was approved, showing, you know, that it was within the buffer, that it met the requirements. I think that's a plot. So is there any questions?
Jenny, I have one.
Okay.
And it may be more of a point of order. The motion I made last time is that we would not vote on this till we had a full body to vote. And that's what we passed. Are we not bound to wait till we have all the members present to address this case? And I'll defer it to Kelvin if he'd like to weigh in, but that was the form of the motion that was approved last time.
Yeah, it's a legal question, but just as far as like making that happen, that's just pretty much impossible because we can't plan. I mean, even with us doing it on Zoom, you know, it could change up until 5 o'clock. Somebody can't come for some reason, you know.
If for sake of procedure, I'd be willing to make another motion to supersede that one if the chair would like to have one.
Calvin, do you have anything to add about that?
No, is Brandon on?
He is. I haven't promoted him yet, but I can. You want me to do that now?
Has the board seen his letter?
No.
It's a letter I emailed you on Friday afternoon.
So, Mr. Ghostin, you have not seen the letter?
I've not.
Neither have I. I'll look at it right now.
If Mr. Boykin wants to make such a motion, he can.
In light of that, that we take a vote, or I'll make a motion. I guess I have to make it one way or the other. I would move that we deny the variance in this case, and my specific points on that are the criteria number 7, that granting the variance does not substantially conflict with the comprehensive plan or purposes of the ordinance. I believe that it does, and I originally was for this variance, and I only changed my mind after the testimony of Ms. Kelly, who spoke, and she brought our attention to the 2 parts. Bear with me. The 2 parts of the ordinance itself, and I originally with Attorney Gaskins as it related to the pervious surfaces, but the other part of the ordinance that precedes it about the purpose intent was clear to mention that driveways were not to be within the protective buffer. And I don't see this being unreasonably restrictive to move basically a dirt driveway you know, the minimum amount of footage it would take to reroute it for that portion of the road that encroaches upon the protected buffer. So I would make that motion based on those reasons.
We have,
we-
yeah, we have Mr. Gaskins on the line, and we also have several speakers signed up. So.
Yeah, I think we need to, or if we're going to hear, I thought you were making a motion to postpone. Otherwise, I think we need to hear from the applicant and everyone else.
I see. I didn't realize this was a rehearing of the hearing we had before.
Yeah.
I thought we were waiting to have a full body, and I'd be willing to have it now versus with full body, but I will defer to your better judgment.
So Jenny, who do you have?
Well, first, Mr. Gaskins, let me see. Just going to...
So, but did all of the board members see Mr. Gaskins' letter?
No.
No? Okay. All right. Well, I'm sure he'll present it.
Okay. Can you hear us, Mr. Gaskins?
I can hear you. Can you hear
Okay,
me?
good. Yes. So if you could raise your right hand, I will say the oath and you will say I do. I swear to tell the truth and nothing but the truth I do.
I do.
Okay.
Good evening, Mr. Gaston.
Good evening.
You have 5 minutes in which to present your case, please, sir.
Thank
and
you.
If you would please state your name and address.
Brandon Gaskins, 78 North Street, Charleston, 29401. And because this is the 4th time that I've been in front of you on this matter, I will try not to waste your time. I think we've pretty much exhausted the discussion on the merits of the underlying application. What I will address and focus on is the letter that I sent last week, and especially since y'all haven't had a chance to review that. But in that letter, I don't really address the merits, but instead I address the process that has been utilized to reconsider this application after the variance was already approved. And as outlined in that letter, we do not believe that reconsideration was justified under the South Carolina Supreme Court of Bennett versus Clemson in the cases cited in the letter. But what that case holds is that the power to reconsider is not an arbitrary one, and such power should be exercised only when there is justification and good cause, i.e. newly discovered evidence, fraud, surprise, mistake, inadvertence, or change in conditions. And we don't believe that good cause was presented to reconsider the variance when this was reconsidered back, I believe, or when the motion to reconsider was discussed back in, I believe it was the August meeting. There was little discussion about the grounds for reconsideration, and if my memory serves me correct, I believe Mr. Goldstein was the only person to address the basis for reconsideration, and his explanation, as I understand it, was that he wanted to give all interested parties an opportunity to speak and have an opportunity to participate in the process. And while I don't fault him for that, I think it's a commendable goal to have robust public participation. I don't believe that in and of itself is legal cause to justify reconsideration. The meeting in July was properly noticed. The members of the community and interested parties had an opportunity to input or provide their input on the decision. I think more than 30 people sent in letters. And so the public had an opportunity. There was no surprise. There was no change in conditions between July and the meeting in August, or any of the other considerations that would warrant justification for reconsideration. And similarly, I would also say that I think that under Rule 20 and under Bennett versus Clemson, the reconsideration is appropriate where it's capable of speedy and practical resolution. And we are now, I think, more than 3 months past the original granting of the variance. and we still don't have a decision. And I guess there may be some discussion about postponing it again. And we do not believe that's in compliance with the spirit of Bennett v. Clemson, which talks about the need to have finality in the administrative decision-making process. So under the rules, under your Rule 20, which allows for reconsideration, I believe the latest that reconsideration can occur would be the third meeting after the item was voted on, and now we're at the fourth meeting. So I think we're outside of the rules of the board. And for those reasons, and the reasons that I previously stated in the prior meetings, we'd ask that you grant the variance or do whatever procedural mechanism you need to employ to affirm what was originally done. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gaston. Does anybody have a question of Mr. Gaston's testament, Mr. Goldstein?
Mr. Gaskins, there are a couple of things I'd like to go over with you and make an inquiry about. Number one, I have to tell you, I've reached your same conclusion. However, I arrived by a different path. And I want you to tell me where I've gone off the path. My recollection is that this matter first appeared before us, and I think in July. And I think the vote was 7-1 or 8-1 to grant the variance. Thereafter, there were a number of complaints that this board had not fully considered the evidence in the proper application of certain ordinances to the facts presented to us. And you are correct. I made a motion for reconsideration, which I think passed in a split vote, narrowly passing. And then we allowed the parties to reconsider, to be heard again, and we reconsidered the issue at our last meeting. At that point, I recall that I made a motion to affirm our original decision, but I was prepared to add an additional condition on a subject brought up by, I think, Ms. Fowler on behalf of adjoining property owners. That motion failed 4-4. We then made a motion to table the decision until we had full composition of the board, which may or may not happen. Now, Mr. McConnell at that point voted not to table the thing, and his argument was, or his vote was, that the matter was ended by a 4-4 tie and that the original variance remained in effect. Since that time, I've had an opportunity to review Chapter 37 of Robert's Rules of Order, and I have reached the conclusion, and I want somebody to tell me where I've gone wrong, but I've reached the conclusion that Mr. McConnell was in fact correct and that my vote was incorrect, that according to Chapter 37 of Robert's Rules of Order, a matter can only be reconsidered one time. It cannot be reconsidered multiple occasions. And therefore, my motion to grant the variance with an additional condition having failed 4-4, the matter now stands as originally passed by this board in July. And that under Robert's Rules of Order, which govern our procedure, we are not permitted to have serial reconsiderations. So based on my reading of Chapter 37 of Robert's Rules of Order, I have reached the conclusion that you have advocated, though by a different path. And I think Mr. McConnell advocated the correct position, that the motion for reconsideration made at our last meeting, having failed on a 4-4 tie, leaves the matter as it sat in July when we granted the original variance, and that we are not now permitted to revisit it except by unanimous vote of every member of the board. And there are 8 members here tonight. So according to Robert's Rules of Order, Chapter 37, we could reconsider it if there's an 8-0, if there's a motion made to reconsider and it passes unanimously. So that's the conclusion I have reached. So what I would like you to do is, having listened to that lengthy, boring explanation, is tell me where my analysis is incorrect, and also to afford the people speaking in opposition to you an opportunity to hear my reasoning out loud, so that they, when it's their turn to speak, they too will have an opportunity to tell me where my reasoning is incorrect.
Mr. Goldstein, your reasoning certainly seems correct to me. I am not a parliamentarian and no expert on Robert's Rules of Orders, but your reasoning is sound to me. And I will also add that I put this in the letter, but didn't just mention it in my remarks, is that your Rule 20 also provides that, quote, a case may be reconsidered only once. So in addition to Robert's Rules of Order, the BZA's own rule says that it can only be reconsidered once. Having been reconsidered at the last meeting, I agree that it would be improper to reconsider this matter again tonight.
And to be fair to both sides, no one can predict how this matter will end tonight, but to be fair to both sides, everybody has had an opportunity now to make a full and fair and complete record, and the time has not run on anybody. So the aggrieved party, however this ends tonight, the aggrieved party has an opportunity to seek judicial review in the circuit court. The clock hasn't run out on either you or on the opposing neighbors. You agree with that?
I do agree with that.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Goldstein. Mr. Boykin.
Okay, I'm going to try not to make this more confusing than it is, but I'm following along here, and there's several things that I would like, I guess, clarification on. We made a decision. We had a application to reconsider our decision. A vote was taken on that, and it passed. So we had a hearing. Mr. Goldstein made the motion to affirm the prior decision, and it was a 4-4 tie, so the matter didn't carry. According to Ms. Working, we have to have a 2/3 majority for it to have been affirmed as the original decision would have been. The fact that a motion was made and it failed, why would that not now invalidate the prior decision, because the vote was not there, on the one hand. On the other hand, as a member majority in the original decision, how do I not have the right to ask for a reconsideration because I have changed my vote and changed my mind? Mr. Goldstein would be able to, I guess, impede that with his own vote for the affirmation. And that I'd leave that to Mr. UG as a couple of different options.
Mr. UG, would you like to expound upon that, please, sir?
Yeah, so Mr. Boykin, the issue is because the reconsideration did not pass, then the original ruling stands. Meaning, you follow?
Well, I don't follow. The reconsideration did pass. We voted, and Mr. Goldstein was in the majority for it to be reconsidered.
Right. Maybe I'm sorry. Apologies. Maybe I'm being unclear. So the motion to rehear it, to reconsider it, did pass.
Yes, sir.
But the motion that came out of the reconsideration did not pass because it was tied 0-0. So under Robert's rules, the original ruling was not overturned.
So my question to you is, I moved to table it so it would not be a dead issue and we could come back to it. My question to you is, was I not in a position to make my own motion after Mr. Goldstein's failed to make a motion that it be denied, which I did not do because I tabled the motion to reserve that right to bring it back up later.
I think we probably, and this, I mean, I'll take full responsibility. I think we needed to have a motion other than to table it. And so, but you were stuck. Well, I'm assuming it would have been the same vote.
Well, the outcome would have been the same. It would have been a 4-4 tie the other way. Both would have failed, and that's why I made the motion to have the full body present so that it couldn't be a tie. And I guess my question: are we being shorted, so to speak, in having that happen by not having the full body vote? That way, we have a complete, clear picture, and everyone had an opportunity to vote. I'm just bringing that up. That seems to be the most equitable resolution. But again, I'm not a parliamentarian. I'm just asking the question.
Well, I'm also not a parliamentarian, but I did review the information, and I do agree with Mr. Goldstein's analysis.
Then I withdraw my objection.
Okay. Ms. Worker? How would you like to move forward?
I mean, that's up to y'all. But we have people signed up to speak, so I would like to go forward with how we normally run. I was told it was a de novo hearing, but I don't know.
It's not going to be a full hearing. Jenny,
now interject one more time. Is there any point of having more public commentary if it's a moot point that this is already over before it starts? I don't see what the judiciousness of that would be.
Well, that's what I was just saying to Ms. Working. Now that we've clarified that, we probably just need to explain it procedurally to those who were signed up to speak.
Can I add a comment?
Yes.
Well, and I understand that there are people who have signed up to speak in opposition, but if we go through this exercise, it's going to be the same exercise we've already been through 3 times previously. And so what I want to make sure is that the aggrieved party has, I don't want the clock to run out on anybody. Either side has the right of judicial review. And so if my analysis is correct, and I'm not saying it is, I'm saying if my analysis is correct, that this board will issue an order saying that the original variance granted in July stands. That will, and once that order goes out, then the any aggrieved person, that's what the statute says, any aggrieved person would have 30 days from the date that the decision is mailed to seek judicial review in the circuit court.
No, I agree with you.
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
I apologize. I agree with you, Mr. Goldstein. What I was saying to Jenny is we're not going to have a hearing. It's really not necessary to have a hearing. We can bring them on to explain procedurally what has taken place and then issue an order within 10 days from this meeting so that their 30 days would run from when the order is issued. I believe that's what you're making sure their ability to appeal is preserved, correct?
That's exactly right. I don't want anybody on either side of this issue to be prejudiced by the confusing procedure. I want everybody's rights protected.
Sure, everyone's rights will be protected.
So Ms. Working, at this time, can we take a point or make a point to educate those people who are waiting out there to hear what our next step is in the procedure?
I mean, you're going to have to tell me how you want to do that because they could hear you. It's like, do you want them to talk back to you or not?
I don't think that we need to hear any more testimony. I think
So, yeah. Well, I was just gonna say that people, so it was Melinda Kelly, she's on, I mean, she could hear you.
Right.
And then Pam Skinner's on, but she's got 3 people with her, Billy Storin and Arthur Beckholt, and then Victoria Fowler. So they're all on right now. It just.
Okay. So based on the information that was presented tonight, I believe the board has heard everything that it needed to hear. And based on the information given to us by council and by the other board members, the order that we had in July should stand, and that we will give the case is necessary 30 days from the date of mailing out the information for them to have the right to appeal to circuit court. I think that's where we are at this particular time. And we need to have a motion based on that to approve what I just stipulated.
Well, I don't think it requires a motion, but I'm happy to make the motion. And the motion would be that based on the application of our rule of procedure, Rule 20, as further explicated by Robert's Rules of Order, Chapter 37, reconsider, that the matter has already been reconsidered, resulted in a tie vote, which leaves the issue standing as it was originally decided. And in making this motion, I state once again that this was Mr. McConnell's position at the initial hearing, and I thought he was wrong. And it turns out that once again, he was right.
Well, that's what, how many years, 17 years on this august body will teach you. Mm-hmm. So, and our conversation earlier, we discussed that. And he said,
in those 17 years, we never had this come up. And this is something that the board needs to look at, because they need to stay within the rules of Roberts, as well as Mason's and Jefferson's, and follow those. And then if something's going to be tabled, it has to be tabled before a vote is taken. Tabling is of lower rank than an outcome, than a vote. And so we have it backwards there. All of this needs to be straightened out so that this board looks competent and able to take care of public business without anybody being offended.
Just step in for one quick second. Kelvin, would the I guess, better path forward be to hold this in abeyance in some way to give you and time to do the legal research you need to do with legal staff? And I agree with Mr. McConnell, if the end was when the vote was 4-4 to affirm the decision, and that is in fact the end of this matter, I guess my question, what does that mean? And do we have the legal research and everything done satisfactorily to your I guess, pleasure? Need some time to do your research on it before being kind of put on the spot here tonight.
Can you repeat that? You went out.
Would it be more prudent to hold this matter in abeyance so you might have time to do the research necessary to have a fully informed, I agree with Mr. McConnell that the matter may be over with that 4-4 vote, and we just need I guess a resolution. But I think it's unfair to put that on you right here, right now, without your ability to take some time to.
Well, I've done the research in terms of reviewing what Mr. Goldstein, reviewing the other information that Attorney Gaskins presented, okay, and some other. So I'm actually comfortable, and I will work with staff. I'll probably end up drafting work with staff to draft the order.
Well, then I would absolutely support that. Thank you. All right.
If that's the case, is a motion even necessary to close this, or?
No.
I agree with you. A motion is not necessary.
No, a motion is not necessary.
So this case is closed to a public hearing, and we'll just close it out from right there then. Okay? Very good. Mr. Huger, you can take it up and send out any notification along with staff that needs to be done. Thank you. Now, Ms. Working, do we have anything else for this august body?
Yeah, of course. So we've taken in a lot of cases for December 7th, 5 o'clock. We have 10 new cases, 6 variance cases, and 4 special exceptions. Only one of those is, what do they call it? Short-term rental. Tired. I'm assuming we'll probably do the virtual meeting again. It's probably going to be one of those situations where county council doesn't meet until after to renew the emergency order, but we'll just have to take that chance, I guess. And then Mr. Freeman, he still needs an hour and a half, and Ms. Lechner needs 3 hours, but everyone else is done training. That deadline is December 18th. And then we have the 2021 schedule that I'd like you guys to vote on tonight. So April, July, and September are all on the second Monday of the month, but the other dates are on the first Monday. I know like the January 2021 and the January 2022 are not super ideal because they're kind of close to holidays, but that was the best we could do for that. So I just wanted to make sure you reviewed it, and if somebody can make a motion about the schedule.
Board members, do we have any questions about the dates that we have proposed thus far?
I don't care. I won't be here.
January and February.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
Well, not hearing any complaints, I would like to make a motion that we approve the agenda and the calendar for the 2021 year of the Charleston County Board of Zoning and Appeals.
I'll second.
And it's been seconded by Mr. Boykin. Ms. Workin, if you would call the roll for the vote.
Okay. Mr. Ray?
Aye.
Ms. Lechner?
Aye.
Ms. Allison?
Yeah.
Mr. Boykin?
Aye.
Mr. Goldstein?
Aye.
Mr. McConnell?
Aye.
Mr. Nelson? Mr. Nelson? He gone?
He raised his right hand. He's still mute.
Okay. Mr. Woodall? Okay. I think that was everybody. So,
He was working.
yeah, but if your term ends, I believe the county council, they appoint the new members like in early February, but it's not before February 1st. So we'd love for you to stay on just so we can have a quorum at least, but.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Could I ask Mr. Boykin, what kind of animal is that walking behind him with no tail?
That would be hailing from the Isle of Man. The
oh, a manx.
That's funny.
Anything else, Ms. Working?
That's it.
Well, guys, this has been a long meeting, very informative meeting. I want to thank each and every one of you for your patience, your diligence, and just your general efforts to make sure that this is a smooth meeting and smooth transition through all this. And without any further ado, this meeting is now adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night, y'all.
Good night.
Everybody.